AITA for keeping my son away from my mill. I have had a rocky relationship with my mill, but I won't go into that now. This is about my son, 10 months old. My son weighed 4.4 kilograms at birth and currently weighs 10.3 kilograms. When my son was 6 weeks old, my mill asked to spend the day with him. I was not comfortable, but my husband kept asking, so one morning I packed enough breast milk to feed a baby for an entire week and sent my boy to my mill. I kept calling my husband every hour to call his mother and check up on him. He told me the baby is fine. Fast forward, in the evening I went to pick him up and my boy was as light as air and looked unconscious. Without questions, I bottle fed him because I thought he needed food and feeding directly from the breast will be too hectic for him. My boy finished a full bottle and was still crying. I started crying too and rushed him to the hospital. I am a first-time mom. I can't describe what happened to the fullest because I was panicking. The doctors set an 4 on him right away. Later Mill told me my son was too heavy for a 6 weeks old, also she believes frozen milk is spoiled and babies need fresh milk, so she didn't feed him. She instructed me to leave my boy to him for 12 full hours and she kept saying he is fine, but she didn't feed him even a drop of milk. I was furious and promised to never leave my boy for him again. When he was 4 months, my son again kept nagging and said his mom is worrying him about the baby and we should forgive her. I said no, but gave in a month later. I only left the boy for 3 hours with her. I went to meet my boy crying and in pain. He was burning with a high temperature. I again rushed him to the hospital. Later found out Mill rubbed a balm with menthol and other herbs on him. Her reason being that when his daddy was born, he was very fair with lots of hair, but my son is not, so the cream will make him fairer with lots of hair. Again, she didn't also feed him because, as she said, the baby is too heavy. This also passed and I listened to my husband and calmed down. For the past month, my husband has started nagging about his mother wanting to spend the day with her grandson. He asked me every day. I told him today that as long as I am his mother will never set eyes on my boy. I did not only give birth for his mom to murder my boy for me. AITA for refusing my mill access to my son for a full day. My so think am because everyone deserves forgiveness. Comment. NTA. You can't be serious. What is wrong with your husband? We already know something is seriously wrong with your mill. At this point, depending on where you live, leaving your low with mill, depending on outcome, could be considered child endangerment. It would be wrong if you did leave him with her. Supervised visits? Perhaps. Very closely supervised. Unsupervised visits? Not a chance. Hard stop. Not for one single minute. I'd make this my hill to die on. She has proven herself unsafe to care for a child, whatever the reason. In summary, care less about your husband's feelings and more about your child's safety. This. Just all of this. Your mill is insane. She's actively tried to starve your baby because she has some delusion that he is too heavy. She put a chemical on him to bleach his skin. She shouldn't be allowed anywhere near children, let alone your baby. I'm shaking with anger on your behalf. If my in-laws had done this, hell, if my parents had done this. And see instantly, plus a call to the police for child endangerment. And your husband? What the hell? Why is he okay with you baby being put in danger constantly? Why is he pushing for it? Why is he insisting you forgive when your mill has not asked for nor earned forgiveness? Is she scared of his mommy being all mad at him? Why isn't he mad at her? I would have a serious conversation with him about boundaries with his mother and your child's safety. But actually I would be leaving him because him insisting on letting your mill watch him is a sign he shouldn't be in your kid's life. Tell him to block his mother's calls. His happiness does not come before the baby's safety, or you can dump all of them together and run with your baby for the hills. I don't know much about your relationship with him, so I hope he's a good father and husband, and y'all can sit down and talk about this and why none of this was okay. Tell him that his mother harassing him so that she can put his child in danger again needs to be confronted and put a stop to, or he may just end up having to host a funeral for the baby and risk losing his wife. 2. Obviously say what you want, my words should not be repeated verbatim. So freaking what if she's crying? Your child cried as she tortured him and neither she nor your husband seem to care about that at all. If he does not want to be frustrated by his mother, tell him to block her number and quit taking her calls, because you are not turning your child over to this insane woman to be unalived. Frankly, I'd consider reporting him to CPS for continuing to demand that a vulnerable infant be turned over to an insane person. Stand your ground and leave if you have to. This is indeed your hill to die on for the sake of your child. Yes. This. Nobody should ever not feed an infant for that long. Too heavy. No such thing unless prescribed by someone with a medical degree. Child safety ahead of everything else. She bleached your child's skin? She would absolutely never ever see my kid again unsupervised. Not for 1 minute. Next story 2. AITA for telling my best friend why I wasn't attending his wedding? Me and my best friend Alex have been friends since diapers, we're basically family. After college we both moved back home so we could live at home and get our feet underneath us. Alex started dating Stella, 35F, a lovely girl, around 4.5 years ago, and from the get-go she seemed to politely dislike me. I don't know why, oh well, c'est la vie. Alex and Stella moved across the country in 2021 after Stella earned a promotion at work. In 2022 Alex proposed, she said yes, and they set a wedding date for the end of September 2023. I got a save the date card at the beginning of the year, and based on the conversations I had with Alex assumed I would be in the wedding party, either as a groomsman or the best man, but never received any official confirmation from either of them. Couple months before the wedding I saw that wedding invitations had gone out on social media, and figured mine was en route. It never came. I waited a couple weeks, figured it might have just gotten lost in the mail, before I checked in with him. I called Alex and had a brief conversation with him where he was clearly agitated and said he was dealing with a lot, would be incommunicado for the near future, to direct any wedding-related questions to Stella, and he'd called me when things cooled off. I called, texted, and emailed Stella several times over the course of a week, but she didn't respond to any of them. At this point I figured I wouldn't be attending the wedding, and that things were really fucked up for some reason between the two of us. Yesterday, a little over 3 weeks after our last conversation, Alex DM'd asking if I was free to chat. I jumped at the opportunity to get some answers, and after exchanging pleasantries Alex jumped right into a spiel saying that he knew I was super busy with work and dealing with a lot of personal stuff, but he'd love it if it could attend his wedding, even just as a guest, and wanted to know if there was anything he could do to help make that happen. I just blurted out that I'd love to but hadn't received an invitation. Alex stared blankly at me and said what, and I just kind of verbal vomited out that I hadn't received an invitation. That was the reason I'd called him a few weeks ago, that I'd contacted Stella about it but she never got back to me and left me on red, and that I had not idea what he was talking about me dealing with too much to be involved in the wedding. After a very pregnant pause, he said he needed to go sort things out, and that he'd call me when it was done. My phone's blowing TF up since with wedding attendees asking me happened and why the wedding might be off now. My girlfriend has reaffirmed to me that I did nothing wrong, but I've had people from all sides saying I stuck my nose where it didn't belong, and caused a stink, which is really fucking with my head. AITA. Comment. Sounds like he is really going to need an honest friend right now, as opposed to not just the bride, but also everyone who's telling you off for just giving him an honest answer to his question. There's obviously something going on here that your friend is being kept ignorant of, and it's fair to assume that anyone getting on your case about sticking your nose in is also in on whatever the hell secret the bride is trying to keep from him. If at some point he's trying to figure out who is really his friend, you might want to suggest that it's not those people. Glad you're there to support him. Love how they claim he's sticking his nose in when he literally initiated nothing other than to ask about an invite which he was told to do. I really don't understand some people. But you may have just saved your friend a lifetime of misery that already seems to have been showing through. This mix-up wasn't an honest mistake. Look at what you said. He knew I was super busy with work and dealing with a lot of personal stuff, but he'd love it if it could attend his wedding, even just as a guest, and wanted to know if there was anything he could do to help make that happen. I just blurted out that I'd love to but hadn't received an invitation. Alex stared blankly at me and said, "What?" "These are the words of someone who has been lied to and sold a bill of goods about your attending the wedding. And what's this about Alex being in the process of inviting you? The bride and groom just make up a guest list, send out invitations, and see how many can come. That's it? In your case, Alex wanted to invite you but Stella said he's not sure he can come, he's swamped with work, etc., etc. When in reality you weren't even invited. If everything's blown up, it's because Alex found out the truth about Stella, what she did and what she's really like. And people saying you stuck your nose where it didn't belong are just trying to cover for Stella. Not your fault, and Auntie it's not like it was a secret he's your close or even best friend and wanted you to be there. You told him straight up you didn't get an invitation and you were not doing it to start anything, just letting him know. They obviously have issues they are working out and Stella seems like a real piece of work. You didn't do anything. Keep us updated. Auntie, but I wonder why Stella hates you. It sounds like jealousy of your close friendship with Alex. In any event, absolutely none of this is your fault. I don't even understand how you stuck your nose in. Your friend called you hoping you'd come to his wedding, presumably he saw that you weren't on the attendees list, and you told him honestly that you weren't invited. It's a Stella/Ale's problem. Not a you problem.